In this episode in the series about the 1969 Melbourne Transportation Plan, we are going to look at the F4. This was to be a new east-west freeway cutting through the northern suburbs of Melbourne. Most of this brand new route was dropped pretty quickly, but there are still some hints of its existence around today. So let's take a look at the F4, one of Melbourne's forgotten freeways. Bell Street in Melbourne's north has been a significant road connection running from east to west since it was declared a state road in the late 1940s. It links many industrial, residential and commercial areas and carries a lot of traffic. As a result, the engineering consultants writing the 1969 Melbourne Transportation Plan thought that they had found a solution to what they saw as the problem, by creating more road space along a parallel alternative to Bell Street called the F4, or the Bell Freeway. This was to make up what we'll call the eastern section, that is, east of the Tullamarine Freeway, which we'll talk about in a minute. The western section, made up of parts of what we today call the Calder and Tullamarine Freeways, was the only part of the F4 ever built. The total length of both sections would have been around 38 kilometres. It would have begun at the Calder Highway in Keilor North, and then continued east all the way through the northern suburbs on a route just north of Bell Street. Here it would have followed the rough alignment of Murray Road and Southern Road up to Rosanna. From here, it would have cut through the Banyule Flats and Yarra River parklands to terminate at another proposed freeway in Templestowe called the F7. This would have been around where Andersons Creek Road terminates today. The western section of the F4 was built in stages throughout the 1970s and 80s by upgrading existing parts of the Calder Highway. Today, this part is known as the Calder Freeway. Various bypasses of Keilor, Kyneton, Gisborne, Woodend and Diggers Rest were all built as part of this multi-million-dollar project. By 2009, the entire freeway from Bendigo to Melbourne was duplicated. Then there is a short section of the Tullamarine Freeway, built in the 1970s, which runs along the southern boundary of Essendon Airport. However, the part of the F4 east of here, where Bell Street begins, was never constructed. This eastern section never seems to have undergone any detailed planning and was ditched pretty quickly, likely due to the vast amount of land that needed to be acquired. So there isn't much detail on the route and not really that much to talk about here. However, the expansion of Bell Street, particularly through Coburg and Coburg North west of Sydney Road, has been in planning schemes since the 1950s. This narrower section carries 4 lanes of traffic, whereas east of here the road reservation is much more generous, allowing for 6 or more lanes. The most information it seems on the route is from the 1969 plan itself on the overall proposed network map. From what I can gather, there would have been interchanges with Sussex Street, Sydney Road and the proposed F2 freeway in Coburg, as well as with St George's Road, High Street, Plenty Road, the proposed F6 freeway, Waterdale Road, Waiora Road, Lower Plenty Road, the proposed F18, which we today call the North East Link, Fitzsimmons Lane and Heidelberg to Warrandyte Road, before finally terminating at the proposed F7, roughly along the alignment of Andersons Creek Road near the Yarra River in Templestowe. This route took it just north of Bell Street and the Yarra River, and would have cut through thousands of buildings and parks. It's unclear whether all or part of this would have been below ground, but regardless, this route would have likely resulted in many properties being acquired and demolished. Importantly, none of the eastern section of the F4 used existing land reservations, unlike most of the other proposed freeways which were at least partially accounted for. Despite most of the F4 never seeing the light of day, there are still a couple of clues around. The first and most obvious is the interchange between Bell Street and the Tullamarine Freeway. The road reserve here is huge, and there is a noticeably empty parcel of land in the northeast corner. This was to be an even larger interchange between the F4, Bell Street and a new north-south arterial road leading up to Burgundy Street. But, as the F4 was never built, Bell Street was extended west to Pascoe Vale Road instead with a new bridge, which is still in place today. And this was constructed when the Tullamarine Freeway was completed in the 1970s. The second clue is the persistent public acquisition overlay that is applied to properties in the western section of Bell Street. You can see here on this map the yellow shaded areas along this entire stretch of Bell Street, which is designed to allow for a future widening of the road. The idea of the F4 may not have progressed very far, but the philosophy behind it to create an east-west freeway parallel to Bell Street has persisted in other ways, like in the ongoing expansion of the M80 ring road. That brings us to the end of this video in the series about proposed freeways in the 1969 Melbourne Transportation Plan. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this so you can stay up to date on the latest videos and continue to support this channel. As always, check out the video description for more information and see the playlist linked up here for more in the series. Otherwise, you can also visit my website at philipmallis.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.